They opened a vault that had been sealed for nearly 50 years. What they found inside wasn't just shocking, it was history rewritten. Hidden letters, secret tapes, FBI files, and even an escape plan. This isn't the Elvis you thought you knew. What's inside will leave you absolutely speechless. The day they opened the vault, a 40-year-old secret room at Graceland. In early 2025, something truly shocking happened at Graceland, the home that once belonged to Elvis Presley. What started as a quiet preservation project turned into one of the biggest discoveries in music history. A team reviewing the estate for digital archiving stumbled upon what appeared to be a sealed door in the basement, covered behind what looked like an old storage shelf. That door, as it turns out, led to a hidden room that had been sealed shut since 1977, the year Elvis died. The vault was reportedly built in 1976, just a year before Elvis passed, and it was tucked behind 2 layers of reinforced concrete walls, almost as if someone didn't want it to ever be found. It wasn't on the official Graceland floor plans, and even longtime staff claimed they'd never seen or heard of it. But there it was, untouched, locked tight, and completely preserved. When the room was finally opened, only a handful of people were allowed inside. The list included a couple of trustees from the Presley estate, a family archivist, and a lawyer overseeing the process. No reporters, no cameras. Phones were even confiscated. As one insider later said, "This wasn't just about privacy. It was about protecting something much bigger." Inside the vault was a climate-controlled space filled with leather trunks, sealed boxes, and a massive fireproof safe sitting against the far wall. Everything smelled of old paper, cedar wood, and history. These weren't stage props or costumes. They were documents, recordings, photos, things no one outside Elvis's closest circle had ever seen. One of the trustees reportedly opened the first cabinet, took one look at the contents, and turned pale. She whispered just one line, "This changes everything." That's when they knew. They hadn't found leftovers of a legend. They had found Elvis's real life, the version of him the world never knew. From that moment forward, Graceland wasn't just a memorial. It became a place where history was being rewritten behind closed doors. And what came next, what they pulled out of that first box, was deeply personal, shockingly intimate, and something no fan ever expected to see. Graceland just turned into a museum of secrets. Estate employee. And the first thing that sent shockwaves? Letters. Letters meant for someone Elvis never stopped loving. Handwritten letters to Priscilla that were never sent. Tucked inside the first unlocked trunk were dozens of yellowed envelopes, each carefully labeled in Elvis's own handwriting. Most were addressed simply to Priscilla, his ex-wife, the woman he had loved and lost. These were personal letters, never sent, written between 1973 and 1976, in the years following their divorce. The letters weren't short. Some were multiple pages long, and they weren't just about love. They were about regret, addiction, fear, and a desperate wish to turn things around. In one especially heartbreaking letter, Elvis writes, "These pills numb me more than the world ever could. I hate what I've become." That one line alone confirmed what fans had always whispered about, but never truly knew. Elvis was struggling deeply. Other letters revealed something even more surprising. Elvis begged Priscilla to bring Lisa Marie back to Graceland, even hinting that he wanted to remarry and start again. There were notes that read like apologies, followed by hopeful declarations like, "We still have time." It was raw, unfiltered emotion, no showbiz, no ego. And then came one letter that stunned everyone who read it. It mentioned the baby we never spoke of again. That single sentence set off a storm of speculation. Was there a secret pregnancy the public never knew about? A child lost? No one from the estate has confirmed anything, but historians are already digging for answers. The biggest dilemma now isn't just what's in the letters, but whether they should be released at all. Legal teams within the Presley estate are split. One side says these are private and should be sealed forever. The other side argues that Elvis's fans deserve to see the man behind the icon. As one archivist reportedly said, "These letters shake the myth of the king to the core. They make him human again." This wasn't Elvis the star. This was Elvis the man, the father, the husband who couldn't let go. Presley historian. And this is just the beginning. Because what they found next wasn't written, it was recorded. And no one has ever heard that version of Elvis before. Never heard songs, the lost tapes of 1976. Just when everyone thought the letters were the most intimate discovery from Elvis's hidden vault, something even more powerful surfaced. Music no one had ever heard before. Found in a dust-covered leather case near the corner of the room were 15 reel-to-reel tapes, labeled by hand with a simple phrase, "Private, not RCA." That alone was enough to make hearts race. But it wasn't just the label. It was the date scribbled on the top, August 1976, just 1 year before his death. The tapes were carefully preserved, stored in perfect condition inside airtight containers. When the first one was played back on restored equipment, what came through the speakers wasn't the Elvis fans were used to. It wasn't upbeat rock and roll or polished ballads. It was raw, quiet, and achingly human. Elvis was alone with a guitar, his voice stripped of effects or backing tracks. And for the first time, the world heard the real man behind the fame, singing not for an audience, but for himself. The lyrics were deeply personal. In one song, he sings, "The mirror's tired of looking back at me." Another track opens with a whisper, "I gave the world a smile, but forgot to keep one for myself." These weren't studio recordings, they were confessions put to music. Several of the tracks had gospel undertones, but they weren't traditional hymns. They were darker, filled with doubt and longing for peace. As one archivist described it, it's like hearing the soul of someone who knew the end was near. Even more shocking was a handwritten note tucked inside the tape box. It read, "Not for public, not ready." Signed simply, E. Ape, and dated a year before his death, the note hinted that Elvis intentionally kept these songs hidden, maybe unsure if the world was ready to hear this side of him, or if he even wanted them heard at all. And yet now, almost 50 years later, these songs have returned. Quiet discussions between Sony Records and the Presley estate are already underway. There's talk of a posthumous release, potentially titled The Final Voice. But not everyone agrees. Some believe the tapes were private for a reason and should stay that way. Others think Elvis would have wanted fans to know his truth, even if it wasn't perfect. It's the most human he's ever sounded. You don't listen to these songs, you feel them. Studio engineer, first playback session. But if the tapes showed us Elvis's soul, what came next revealed something even more dangerous. His secrets. Not emotional ones, but political. Hidden inside a locked safe, under layers of dust, was a set of documents with a name no one expected to find in Elvis's vault. J. Edgar Hoover. FBI files, hidden in the vault, and Elvis's secret role. Behind the fireproof safe, the team found a thick folder, sealed with red tape and marked "Confidential Eyes Only." Inside were over 200 pages of paperwork, typed memos, and handwritten notes addressed directly to FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover. What shocked everyone was that the author of these notes wasn't a government agent. It was Elvis Presley himself. From the early 1970s, Elvis had reportedly been involved as an informal FBI contact, feeding information about organized crime in Las Vegas, as well as shady dealings within his own management circle. One file included an entire report titled Operation Orion, which detailed an attempted sting operation that involved multiple entertainment figures. Elvis's role was never made public, and until now, not a single word of it was known outside government walls. In one handwritten note, Elvis pleads for increased protection for Priscilla and Lisa. He claimed they were being followed and feared retaliation for what he was sharing. There's even mention of Colonel Tom Parker, his longtime manager, in a memo that accuses Parker of working with mob-connected financiers, pushing Elvis into contracts he wanted out of. The tone of the documents grows darker over time, and by late 1972, Elvis writes, "They're everywhere. I'm not sure who's on my side anymore." The level of paranoia in the files is heartbreaking. One of the last letters includes a scribbled sentence: "I'm watched more now than I ever was on stage." These weren't the ramblings of a man losing his mind. They were carefully structured messages, backed with details only an insider could know. The FBI never acted on most of what Elvis sent. Some pages even have stamped notes that read, "Filed, no action." Experts believe that Elvis's growing sense of isolation during the mid-70s may have been fueled in part by these secret activities. He was caught between fame, family, addiction, and now, apparently, government surveillance. And it's possible he died with the belief that he was a liability to powerful people. The King of Rock might have also been a king of secrets, one historian remarked. And maybe that's what finally broke him. The implications of these documents are still being discussed. Some believe they should be handed over to the National Archives, while others warn they could endanger Presley's legacy. But one thing is clear: Elvis Presley was not just a performer. He was playing a far more dangerous role offstage. And if you think that's where the mystery ends, think again. Because what they found next, tucked deep in a leather journal, was a story of a man breaking down quietly, day by day, while the world kept cheering for him. Private diaries reveal a lonely king. Amidst the photos, tapes, and sealed files, there was one item that felt more personal than anything else in the vault: a red leather-bound journal, worn at the edges but intact. It was clearly Elvis's. On the inside cover, in his familiar script, it read, "For my eyes only, E." What lay inside wasn't written for the world. It wasn't polished. It was raw, reflective, and painful to read. These were the thoughts of a man who, despite all the fame in the world, felt completely alone. The entries began in 1974, the year after his divorce from Priscilla Presley. He wrote almost every day, sometimes a full page, sometimes just a line or two. But across the years leading to his death in 1977, a pattern formed. Elvis referred to himself in the third person, calling himself E. One entry read, "E can't sleep again. Too many cheers in his ears and not enough silence in his soul." He wrote about everything: his health, the stage, his fear of death, and a growing sense of being used. In one chilling entry, dated April 3, 1975, he scribbled, "They cheer louder when he looks tired, They think it's part of the act, but it's not. It's real. He was no longer just performing for fans. He was trying to survive in front of them. Elvis also wrote about his spiritual battles. He loved gospel music, always had. But now, his faith seemed fragile. One heartbreaking sentence simply said, "God forgives, but the audience never forgets." It became clear he was torn between who he was and who the world needed him to be. He was battling expectations while feeling completely cut off from love. There was bitterness, too. He called out Hollywood, writing, "They used me like a golden puppet. Now they want to retire me like a broken one." He felt betrayed by people he once trusted, including producers and managers. Names weren't always mentioned, but the anger was loud between the lines. He wrote of dreams where he died on stage, not in a glorious moment, but in silence, with no one noticing. The last entry, written just 8 months before his death, was only one line. No one left to sing for. There were no goodbyes, no conclusions, just a man who had given everything and felt like he had nothing left. "This isn't Elvis the entertainer," said one estate archivist. "This is Elvis the man." And he was hurting. The discovery of these diaries not only confirms the emotional toll of fame, it rewrites how we understand his final years. The king of rock and roll wasn't just burned out. He was grieving, lonely, and lost. And just when you thought it couldn't get more personal, there it was. A new will, hand-signed by Elvis, written 2 days before he died. And it changes everything we thought we knew about his legacy. A hidden will that changes the Presley legacy. Folded inside a legal envelope found deep within a sealed metal drawer was a document no one expected to see. A last will and testament signed by Elvis Presley and dated August 14, 1977. That's just 48 hours before he was found dead in Graceland. What made this discovery so explosive wasn't just that the will existed. It's that it directly contradicts the official will filed in 1973, the one the world has always accepted as fact. This newly uncovered will had 2 witness signatures, a lawyer's stamp, and a Presley monogram. But here's the twist. Lisa Marie Presley was not named as the sole heir. Instead, the will introduced a mysterious second beneficiary, listed only as J.M. The identity behind those initials remains unknown. Some believe it could refer to a close friend, a secret partner, or even an illegitimate child, though that's only speculation. But one thing is clear. If this will is authentic, it changes everything about the Presley estate. More shocking is what Elvis wrote about the people around him. In a brutal section, he names Colonel Tom Parker and a blood relative, likely a reference to a family member, for deliberately misleading and exploiting him. He accuses them of funneling royalties away from him and controlling his finances against his will. "I was sold more than I sang," he writes in one scathing paragraph. The tone of the will isn't just legal, it's emotional. It reads like a final attempt to take back control of a legacy he felt had slipped through his fingers. He expresses concern about Lisa Marie's safety, the future of Graceland, and his desire that the public one day hear the truth. But most haunting of all is the final line. This is not revenge, it's protection. The Presley estate's legal team reacted immediately. Within days of the will's discovery, they filed an injunction to block its release, citing sensitive financial and familial implications. That legal language may sound sterile, but behind it is a ticking time bomb. If this document is validated in court, it could reopen the estate, redistribute wealth, and spark lawsuits that drag the Presley family back into the spotlight. If this is real, it's not just a legal issue, "It's a betrayal from beyond the grave," one insider said. The public is now demanding answers. Fans, historians, and even lawyers are calling for full transparency, but the Presley estate is holding its cards close. They know that if this goes public, it could damage reputations, shift power, and redefine Elvis's legacy for generations. And just when the legal fire started to burn, the next item to emerge from the vault would strike even deeper. Because it wasn't written for courts or the public. It was written for one person only, his daughter. A sealed envelope marked, "For Lisa, when I'm gone." Among all the shocking finds inside Elvis's private vault, nothing was more heartbreaking than a sealed envelope with 5 simple words handwritten on the front. "For Lisa, when I'm gone." The writing was unmistakably Elvis's. The envelope had never been opened, never tampered with. It had been waiting in silence for nearly 5 decades, untouched by time, hidden from the world. Inside was a 5-page handwritten letter, dated August 15, 1977, just one day before Elvis passed away. The tone of the letter was tender but heavy. It wasn't a celebrity writing to his child. It was a father trying to leave behind his truth, his fears, and his love. In the opening paragraph, Elvis wrote, "If you're reading this, it means I couldn't stay. I'm sorry, baby. I really tried." What followed was a mix of honesty and sorrow. He warned Lisa about the entertainment industry, calling it a place that devours soft souls like ours. He urged her not to chase fame, but to chase peace, writing, "They'll cheer for you one day, but they won't hold you when you fall. Remember that." For fans, it's a window into Elvis's deepest regrets, the cost of his own fame and the pain it caused his family. But the letter didn't stop at emotion. It revealed a family secret. In the 3rd page, Elvis referenced "your real uncle, the one nobody speaks of." There's no further detail, but the wording has triggered a wave of speculation. Could Elvis have had a long-lost sibling? Was there a scandal buried deep in the Presley family tree? For now, no one knows. But it's a mystery that historians are desperate to unravel. Tucked inside the same envelope was a small cassette tape. Written across the label were the words, "You'll never walk alone. Final take." Experts believe this may have been the last recording Elvis ever made, performed alone in the jungle room with only a microphone and his emotions. According to audio engineers who have reviewed the track, Elvis's voice is fragile but powerful, more prayer than performance. When Lisa Marie reportedly heard the letter and the tape, she wept uncontrollably. According to insiders, she initially refused to let anyone else see the contents, wanting to keep that moment between herself and her father. However, just weeks later, the entire letter was leaked anonymously, sparking headlines around the world and reigniting interest in Elvis's final days. "This wasn't a goodbye letter," one family friend said. "It was a warning and a cry for forgiveness." What makes this letter so emotional isn't just what's written, but what's behind the words. Elvis knew his time was short. He knew he was being pulled under by forces he could no longer fight. And in his final hours, he chose to speak to his daughter, not the world. But while this letter showed Elvis's most private thoughts, the next discovery was visual. Over 200 photographs that captured his final weeks. And they told a very different story than the one we've always been told. Photos that rewrite his final days. Hidden in a locked wooden chest inside the vault were over 200 previously unseen photographs, all taken between June and August of 1977, just weeks before Elvis died. Most of them had never been developed. They were stored in old Kodak envelopes, still labeled with the original roll numbers and marked private. What those photos revealed was nothing short of astonishing. In almost every picture, Elvis looked thin, pale, and visibly weak, a stark contrast to the image of the energetic performer fans believed was preparing for a comeback. In one series of shots taken in his bedroom, he's seen sitting on the edge of his bed, looking down at the floor with dark circles under his eyes, surrounded by medication bottles and scattered notes. But it wasn't just his condition that stood out. Several photos showed unfamiliar men in dark suits entering and leaving Graceland at odd hours, late at night or just before sunrise. None of them have been publicly identified. One image in particular shows Elvis talking to two men by the pool, both dressed in black, with briefcases in hand. There's been speculation these were federal agents, or possibly linked to Elvis's secret communications with the FBI, as referenced in the files found earlier in the vault. Then came the photo that truly stunned researchers. Dated August 12th, just 5 days before his death, it shows what appears to be Elvis embracing Priscilla Presley in a hallway near the music room. The image is slightly blurred, but the silhouettes, posture, and timestamp all match. If true, this would be their final reunion, a moment that, until now, was never acknowledged by the family or the press. One of the most emotional images was taken in the dining room. A full dinner plate, untouched, and a handwritten note beside it that simply read, "Too tired tonight." That small detail, a cold meal left uneaten, said more than any tabloid ever could. But the final twist came from the last envelope in the stack. Inside were travel documents, including a passport renewal application and plane tickets for Argentina, booked for August 18, 1977, 2 days after Elvis's official date of death. Next to them was a handwritten checklist titled, "If I Go." It included items like "Burn this journal," "Take tapes," and "Cash, Bahamas Bank." He wasn't preparing for a tour, one source said. He was preparing to vanish. These photographs have added an entirely new layer to the story of Elvis's last days. Far from a simple health decline, they suggest a man caught between escape and collapse, between control and chaos. And just when the idea of escape started to seem like wild speculation, the next discovery, a blueprint of Graceland with a hidden tunnel, suggested that Elvis may have planned his disappearance with exact precision. Hidden room, blueprint, and escape plan. Just when it seemed the vault couldn't reveal more, researchers found a secret blueprint of Graceland, unlike any ever released. It included handwritten notes, red markings, and a tunnel leading from the basement music room to a shed near the estate's edge. It was signed EAP and dated July 1977. Next to it was a folder labeled Escape. Inside, plane tickets booked for August 18, 1977, just 2 days after Elvis's death, under the alias Aaron Dale, a known pseudonym of his. Also enclosed were $5 million in wire transfers to offshore accounts in Argentina, Switzerland, and the Bahamas. Then came the most chilling item, a crumpled note reading, "They'll never let me be free unless I vanish." The handwriting matched Elvis's. "He wasn't trying to fool fans," said one historian. "He was trying to escape being Elvis Presley." The evidence has reignited the Elvis is alive theory. With tunnels, fake names, and money trails, this isn't just myth anymore. It's being seriously investigated. As the world tries to piece this together, the next big question is clear. Why hasn't Graceland said a word? Graceland's official silence, and what happens next? Despite the explosive discoveries, letters, tapes, FBI files, photos, and even an escape plan, the Presley estate remains silent. As of September 2025, no statement has been issued. All media inquiries have been met with a simple, "No comment at this time." But behind closed doors, something is brewing. Journalists confirm that itemized logs, audio recordings, and legal documents prove the vault's contents are real. Two major law firms are reportedly managing internal fallout, while social media erupts with hashtags like #ElvisKnew and #TheVaultTruth. Tensions are rising within the Presley family. Riley Keough, Elvis's granddaughter and estate manager, is allegedly at odds with advisors. Some want the truth hidden, others believe the public deserves to know. "He gave the world everything. The least we can do is give the world the truth," said one insider. A private auction is rumored for December 2025, but legal pressure may force the estate's hand. Graceland is no longer just a tourist site. It's ground zero for a story of secrecy, legacy, and truth. And if this is just the beginning, what else still lies buried in Elvis Presley's private vault? The truth about Elvis Presley has been buried in silence. Until now. The vault didn't just hold artifacts. It held his pain, his secrets, and his final message. As Graceland remains quiet, the world demands answers. One thing is certain. The king left behind more than music. He left behind mystery.